Gamers, I'm sure there's a lot of people out there, okay, who have always wanted to be a card wizard, a Gamba wizard. Maybe they like to dress up as the Joker or Gambit. You know, they watched Deadpool and Wolverine and thought, wow, that's where I want to be. Well, good news. Hello, YouTube. You might have that opportunity. With a surprise teaser, ArenaNet utilized the scheduled tweet functionality to bring us these cards. Now, everyone's immediately thinking Thief. This kind of looks like Initiative for a start. And, you know, you're thinking Trickster, gambling, games of chance, that kind of stuff. Really fits into that Thief theme. And, well, we might be completely off base with that. There's a little bit of interesting information that's popped up, actually, from an unlikely source in the Chinese server, actually, as it turns out. But we'll get into that later. But here, I think this is looking like Thief for sure. Really cool theme, to be honest. I think people are going to really like that. I imagine Thief mains are very excited to see this potential proposition. Of course, it isn't confirmed to be Thief, but it certainly is looking that way, I think. Now, it's going to be really interesting to see how this plays out because, of course, it's going to interact with the profession mechanic. So maybe like when you use Steel, you draw a card, or you're like cycling through a deck and you can combine them together in some way. Like someone was bringing up how we should be talking about what utility skills you might get with this, or maybe if there are going to be weapons, because this is a really interesting situation to talk about because my assumption going into this was there wasn't going to be weapons, but there honestly could be. Like they delayed the expansion a bit. Maybe they're going all out on this expansion, like really trying to kind of smash one and get a big one in. So we'll have to see about that. Of course, we'll get confirmation relatively soon. I wouldn't expect that because, again, that's a lot of work. I think Elite Specs are more work than making weapons anyway because there's a lot more mechanical intricacy involved in them because it changes the entire mechanic. But anyway, we're already, like, how was that, guys? How was that for a teapot moment there? Immediately got sidetracked within a couple of milliseconds talking about some other stuff. But listen, I know you all love it. I know you all love the YouTube slop. But yeah, super cool, I think. You know, Thief, definitely one that's, I think, hard to make specializations for. But also, I feel like Thief actually has some of the most room for design to be explored on it, because elite specializations on Thief, and this is kind of true of Warrior as well, have always been a bit one-dimensional. We saw them change that a little bit with Spectre, especially now as Spectre has recently been kind of like made way more functional, way more usable. And now that we see with this recent patch, Spectre is now like highly functional as a support. Even seeing some really good play in World versus World, actually, as it turns out, as well. And well, all game modes, like Spectre's really good in PvP for that kind of hybrid damage support thing. You've got support Spectre in World versus World that's doing really well right now. And of course, you have like loads of Spectre builds that work well in PvE too. And that's been really helped with some design. But still, plenty of space to explore, I think, on Thief. Because again, like Daredevil and Deadeye are, you know, they are pretty niche and a little bit more one-dimensional than a lot of other elite specializations have been. So it's going to be very interesting to see where they take this in terms of like what it's going to actually end up doing, you know? I think they won't go too hard on RNG, nobody panic. Like ArenaNet is very anti-RNG, right? In terms of how classes play out, right? They typically keep things pretty damn deterministic. Like, you know, even with how they've been kind of removing stuff like chances and procs and stuff like that from a lot of class design over the last couple of years. I don't think CMC and Trig are big into Gamba. They are not ready to win big, guys, okay? I better be able to use Pot of Greed to draw 2 additional cards from my deck. I mean, yeah, look, there may be some kind of mechanic like that. You draw a card whenever you steal, but maybe you can kind of rig the deck somehow to get the card that you want. Maybe you can, you can combine multiple cards together and you can get special effects and stuff like that. It could be really cool. And there could also be some interplay there with your utility skills. Your utility skills allow you to like pick a particular card that you want or something like that. And, you know, you can build this specialization around this kind of card mechanic. They almost certainly are not going to mess around with initiative. They did this with Spectre, right? And it didn't go down very well, and Arena has had some difficulty with kind of making initiative healthy. Kind of at that's the PvP game modes, guys. You know, sometimes you need a, short bow 5 ends up costing 8 initiative. You know, you hate to see that. You really do. It's good stuff. It is good stuff. But actually, that's kind of the speculation on that. That's all I've got to say. We're not gonna extend this out, guys, any more than we absolutely have to there. I do think this looks really cool, though, and I think if I was a Thief main, I'd be excited about this. The other thing I wanted to talk about in this kind of like daily slot video was actually we got a little bit of interesting insight that might show that we're a bit off on what we're expecting, actually, with these elite specializations. Because it turns out that on Chinese social media, the elite specialization icons actually had like a little poem almost sent out with them as well. So for the Bard, and again, you know, I'm assuming these translations are accurate, okay? Like if they're not, then, well, unlucky, I guess. Maybe someone can check in the comments. But this is, the Bard is kind of like, life floats by, my heart drifts to the clouds. Again, that kind of makes sense for Bard, right? That definitely does make a little bit of sense. And then the one that I thought was, I'm now thinking this is actually Guardian, to be honest. Maybe Guardian, not the Warrior as I was expecting, because this is apparently armor turns into feathers, mountains turn into sword blades. That kind of feels a bit more like Guardian to me, rather than Warrior. It still could be Warrior, by the way, but that kind of feels that way a little bit. You do have the, you know, the feathers, the wings of the Paragon, but the way this is described is kind of interesting. So that's a little bit of insight there as well. And also this one, okay, is where things get exciting. So this one was really mysterious, right? The third one that got revealed. But this says, Silver flow in 1,000 shapes. Summon shadow shaping attack. I just love how that sounds. And you know, this phrase represents silver coins, liquid and light, symbolizing the process of sublimation from solidification to fluidity. Now, this thing here, that sounds like Necro to me, actually, which I kind of wrote off as a bit too much like Scourge, almost. And it still could be Rev, right? Like Rev, you know, Rev kind of, you know, hurling shadowy spirits at people, something like that. But it feels a little bit like Necro, actually, or Engineer, right? You know, the liquid light, solidification and sublimation, fluidity, right? It could be some kind of magnetic metal control. So it's, look, sticking on the X-Men theme, right? Maybe all of these are just actually X-Men references, guys. We don't know. Okay, we've got Gambit with the Thief, and this is going to be Magneto, guys. Log in. But yeah, this, you know, I'm kind of thinking Necro there. Summon a shadow shaping attack. You know, you're like a ranged necromancer thing that kind of like throws, kind of leaning into that shadow magic element, like the dark wizard, shadow wizard of the necromancer. Really interesting. And like this, you know, stay tuned, guys. We gotta you know, keep an eye on Chinese Twitter, guys, because like we're getting some hot information there, guys. Okay, we absolutely are in that regard. But yeah, that's our update for the day. I guess stay tuned for tomorrow, because again, this was a bit of a surprise. I was expecting them to be only posting these on weekdays, but it looks like that may not be the case. So stay tuned. We might have a couple of surprises. And if they do end up revealing these over the weekend, that also may indicate that we might get another couple of little teasers on stuff that isn't about elite specializations before the expansion reveal on the 15th. Because bear in mind, we've still got 10 days left before that. And if they do more of this, they send out a couple on the weekend, could be pretty interesting. We might have a couple of other little teasers in there as well, and some more intelligence on like where we're going. Although, to be fair, they're going to drop it all on the 15th, so, you know, it's like, oh wow, we get a tiny hint one day before they drop all the information. Woo! Woo! Anyway, that's enough of that, guys. We're done for today. Hope you enjoyed my little update here. Enjoy this hexagon with cards on it that's got purple and orange. Very exciting. Gambit Thief, Joker Thief, Card Wizard, Trickster Wizard, Gamba Wizard. That's going to be you in the next expansion. But of course, let me know what you think, okay? Like, tell me if you think I'm right about this. Tell me what you think of the new information, the mysterious Chinese copy pasta indicating what the future could hold for the elite specializations in Guild Wars 2. But anyway, I think that's going to do it for now. Leave your comments, have that referral link primed. Of course, I'll see you next time, guys. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Like, comment, subscribe. Watch the stream. Subscribe to the stream. Follow on Twitch. Come back every day. Boom. Done!